Good morning, guys. So because of the title and thumbnail, obviously this is not a huge surprise as to what this video is about, but obviously this video will be shot very differently. So I decided last minute to drive to Savannah, which is like a 4-hour drive for me, not really close, so I could go ride some Indian motorcycles. Now, the reason I haven't gone to the dealership closest to me to do this was because I feel like that's a waste of the salespeople's time, and I would probably have to be a little dishonest in order to ride every single model that is going to be on the Indian truck, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that. And I say dishonest because I'm not going to buy one. Clearly I'm not. So I didn't want to waste anybody's time, essentially. So right now I'm actually in the Starbucks line, and then I'm gonna make the drive. So I'm gonna take you guys along. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to film or how they're gonna feel about me filming. I did call the dealership that the demo truck is going to be at, and I asked them if I would be allowed to wear my GoPro on the test ride, so that way I knew I could at least get that. And I know they probably wouldn't have a problem filming in there. I just don't want them to catch wind of the channel and think that I'm there to bash Indian, because I'm really not. If I enjoy these bikes or I like these different models, I'm definitely going to tell you guys. I'm going to be completely honest. You know the deal. But they don't know that. You know, they can only assume the worst. So I'm going to get my coffee, get on the road, and I'll get back with you guys when I get there. Alright, so I was super surprised that they had this one here. This was the one I was the most interested to ride, was this Carbon Edition FTR. Pretty simple process. I walked in, signed up, gave them my ID, all that stuff, told them this is what I wanted to ride, and they said, alright, hop on it. Given very little instruction about where we're going, whatnot. I'm assuming this person in the vest is gonna lead this shindig. I don't love riding with a bunch of people that I don't know, but obviously this is the situation.
All good?
Mm-hmm. Loosely taped into the bottom of the helmet. Again, no instruction on where we're going, how far we're going, any kind of rules to adhere to. Obviously just follow the law, but you know, as far as what's acceptable, I don't know. And that's exactly what I thought this thing was going to be. Absolute ton of power. So I had assumed that Harley Davidson's Sportster S was an answer to this. I don't know how far we're going to get to go. Power feels very, very similar. I think they're evenly matched. Alright guys, look, I know a lot of you got upset about the audio from the bike ride being cut way, way down and me doing the voiceover. However, on this situation, I let the regular audio play as long as I could. What happened was the microphone came loose from my helmet. I promise I have addressed that. It is fixed now. It can no longer come loose no matter what. It may never come back out of that helmet, even when I swap helmets. But nonetheless, this is where we are. I tried to salvage the audio. I tried every option possible. This was the only option. So we're going to do a voiceover for the rest of this test ride, but I don't view it as an entirely bad thing because it also gives me time to kind of put together more of my thoughts, because when you're riding, yeah, you're giving real-time feedback. However, you're also, trying to pay attention to the road, and I'm riding with this big group of people that I've never ridden with. I don't know how they're going to respond, how they're going to act. This is 4 hours away from my house. So I'm also not sure, of the roads, where we're going. So this has the exact same horsepower numbers as Harley's Sportster S model. And I do believe they made the S to kind of as an answer to the Indian FTR Carbon. So I'm going to go ahead and say, power-wise, yeah, they match the power. Speed, as you'll see in this video, I got it up to, I want to say 70-ish. We're riding in a group. It's the first bike I'm riding, so I don't want to get kicked out of the demo rides for going too fast. They didn't give us any rules, but I don't want to be showing out and causing a problem. So power and speed-wise, I do think they're similar. Me personally, looks-wise, this FTR, specifically the Carbon version, I want to emphasize that. I don't hate the other FTR models that I've seen, but this Carbon version is 100% me. Like, if they gave me an FTR and said, hey, here's an open checkbook, design one that you think looks sick, I would have designed the Carbon. So I'm going to go ahead and give the looks to this FTR. I think it looks absolutely amazing. And then Harley didn't really have anything to answer to this until the S. As far as that horsepower rating goes, I know with the Sportster S, I bragged on the display. I didn't get to play with this one too much on the test ride, just because I literally hopped on this bike. Minute or two in, we took off. And then obviously riding is not the time to be looking down, messing with the screen. That's more of a stopped, sitting there doing nothing thing. Looks wise, I love the screen. I like how big it is. I like that it's squared off. I would give the screen, granted, I didn't have that much interaction with it. I'm probably going to give the display to the FTR as well. This bike, for 17 grand, which is MSRP, I've not looked up to see what they actually sell for. I don't know if they stick to that. I do know they're pretty hard to find. The salesman at the Indian dealership down in Savannah kind of made it to be a big deal that they got a used one in and sold it not long ago. So I feel like numbers are probably fairly limited on these bikes. However, at 17 grand with full Olin suspension, Akrapovic exhaust, all the carbon fiber, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck with this bike. And again, I'm a huge fan of the looks. So it's not just the performance of the bike. To me, it looks great from the factory. The Akrapovic exhaust wasn't overly loud by any means. It kind of sounded like a stock exhaust, honestly. And that was fine with me. On a bike like this, I don't necessarily want it to be super loud and screaming down the road. I know there's times where that's fun, where it's loud and you rev it and whatnot, but honestly, I feel like this bike was designed to kind of inspire you to be a little more aggressive, if you will, trying to choose my words wisely. Basically, this is a good bike to be a hooligan on. And I think loud exhaust only draws more attention to that. So in most settings, if you can avoid drawing attention to yourself while you're doing things you maybe possibly shouldn't be doing on the highway, not promoting that or condoning that it's okay. I'm just saying, if you were to do it, not drawing excess attention while you're doing it would be ideal. So I did intentionally, I do this on a lot of test rides actually, I did intentionally hit a bunch of the bumps and potholes and whatnot in the road. Nothing major, obviously. I don't want to damage the bike. But the small stuff that I knew I could get away with, I did hit some of those just to kind of see the suspension. I mean, it's Öhlins, like, come on, like, what do you expect? Felt great. As you're going to see on this test ride, and as you've already seen, we're not really taking corners. Most of these are straight roads. We're doing like a giant rectangle, essentially. So straight roads, no real curves. I really would have liked to take this thing on some curvy roads and also get away from this massive group of people. Clearly, that didn't happen. So I can't really speak to the suspension. But again, it's Öhlins, like, it's kind of the top of the food chain in most people's opinion, not just mine. So I think we kind of know what we could get there. Also, this suspension wasn't set up for me, so I don't know like what weight it's set up for and all that stuff. But out of the box, it felt great, just regularly cruising, took the bumps well. Everything was good. So, as you guys can tell, I've given this thing a glowing review. I'm a massive fan of the looks. I'm a massive fan of the performance. I'm a massive fan of this bike overall. I mean, there's very few things, if any, that I would change. I mean, it's great out of the box. For $17,000, I feel like you're getting a lot of value. I do view this more as a one-person bike. I don't necessarily think I would enjoy two-up riding with it, nor do I think my passenger would necessarily enjoy that. You know, quick run to get some lunch or something, yeah, maybe not so bad, but I don't see two people wanting to be on this all day. I mean, even the riding position, which I don't think I've mentioned yet, I love. It feels great. And the foot controls are like a slight rear set. So one of the things I've seen nonstop is people questioning the move that Harley made by putting forward controls on their Sportster S if it's supposed to be a sport bike. No sport bikes, no sport riding really has your feet that far in front. If anything, it's, you know, the most forward would be a mid control, which is what most of the other performance-based Harleys do, you know, the Dynas and the sportier Softails as far as the Sportster S and things like that. However, the rear sets are pretty much the standard for sport bike, sport riding. So any of your crotch rockets, whatnot, they're going to have a rear set. I'm used to riding so many different bikes, so I hop on bikes, you know, as you guys know if you watch the channel. I mean, I ride a different bike pretty much every other day. So I'm able to adapt. You know, no one bike feels like at home. So when I hop on a new one, nothing feels super strange because I don't spend enough time on any one bike to get super used to it. So these slight rear sets, they feel good. No problems with them at all. Point being, I don't see this as a two-up bike. So I see a lot of value for the money if you're just looking for a performance bike to go rip and go ride and go have fun on. However, one of the things I do need to talk about with this one, and with Indians in general, is I have some reservations. This one, on one of the reservations, not necessarily as big of a deal, and that's the aftermarket. I don't know the exact number, so I'm just going to kind of ballpark it, but I feel like out of all the companies that are kind of on my radar, at least 90% of them pretty much only make stuff for Harley Davidson, and the other, say, roughly 10% of companies that do make things for Indian, they don't make a lot of things, or that's just the way it seems. And again, I know I'm more so in the Harley world, so if you're an Indian person or you're a little more in tune with companies that do things for Indians, maybe you see things a little bit differently, and maybe they are, maybe my percentages are a little skewed. But that was one of my concerns, is the aftermarket demand. Like I said, for this bike, not as much of a big deal because there's nothing I would really want to change. I mean, I would probably
upgrade the levers, and, just do the little, essentially cool guy, minor detail stuff. Overall, this bike, what do you need to change? Exhaust is good, suspension's good, cosmetics are good, just little bitty tweaks to kind of make it your own. The next thing that kind of bugs me about the Indian, and I saw this when I was in sales, every once in a while we would get a customer on an Indian come in wanting to trade it for a Harley. We can't sell Indian underneath the Harley Davidson dealership. There's ways that you can. You have to structure it a little bit differently, but it's just not something that we did at the time. And a lot of times we had a hard time getting a buy figure on the Indians. Even the Indian dealership just didn't want them back, which was obviously pretty concerning. They wouldn't even put a number. Now, Harley, in my experience, will always put a number on your bike. I'm not saying you're going to love the number that they put on it. They're trying to buy it at wholesale because they're going to retail it. So usually people don't love that number, but pretty much any Harley dealership that's doing okay with their cash, and got a little to tie up into used stuff, we'll put a figure on your Harley Davidson, whether you're doing the trade-in with them or not. So I did see that a lot with Indian, and that concerns me with the aftermarket resale value. Now, this is one of those bikes I feel like if guys are going to get it, they've done their homework, they know they're going to keep it. So once again, maybe not the biggest concern with this FTR Carbon. It's such a specific, special bike. I also feel like there could be a very strong used market for this particular model. So for particular bikes, it's not as much of a concern. I'm just saying as far as Indian as a whole, they just don't have as much of the market. There's not as much demand. So that was the second concern that I had as far as buying an Indian. And again, this is the perspective of a Harley Davidson enthusiast or a Harley guy, if you will. And then the third concern, not a huge deal, but was the dealer network. And as far as it not being a huge deal, so there is an Indian dealership closer to my house than this one down here in Savannah, which took me exactly 4 hours to get here. So there is an Indian dealership closer, but it's not close by any means. Obviously, there's Harley Davidson dealerships all over the place. I don't know the exact number now because I know some closed in during the pandemic times. But I know there was right at 1,500 dealerships total pre-pandemic. Now, again, I don't know the numbers, but I know there's significantly more Harley dealerships than Indian dealerships. And even as a Harley guy, clearly I do work for Timms Harley Davidson, and then I have this YouTube channel, so I spend a lot of time in a Harley dealership. But before I worked in a dealership and before I started this channel, I wasn't necessarily the dealership guy. Like, I know a lot of customers, a lot of people that just pop into the dealership just to say what's up, talk to people, hang out, shop the clothing section, get the coffee, do whatever. That was never really me. I would pop in occasionally to kill time, or if it had been a few months, usually I would check it out. But other than that, that's kind of where we were at. So those are my three big concerns with that. We'll go ahead and wrap this up there. Let me know what you guys think as far as the whole Harley versus Indian thing, but I'm going to go ahead and say this versus the Sportster S. For me personally, I like this FTR Carbon. But then buying one, like I said, those three concerns, I would really have to weigh the options. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Also, to point out, the same exact tail section as the Sportster S, the way this plate is mounted. I will say that one looks slightly better, but I still don't like that setup. Do like this Carbon.